All right, Ida Hassan, not to worry. We'll come back to you in a moment. Mr. Chukwuma, looking at this deployment strategy, yes, you've looked at some issues as well. But at the moment, looking at how the narrative from Frank, how they're going to deploy, do we expect business as usual tomorrow?
Well, I think the first thing to say is that security provisioning is a collaborative effort. He has highlighted what the police plans to do in collaboration with other supporting agencies. And by the way, they have this interagency election security consultative forum where the police leadership is established. So that would happen. The only thing I would add them to add to what he said they are going to do is to check their radio communication. Yes, he said that they would have the patrols going around, and rightly, those who are the polling units.
That radio communication is from police to police, isn't it?
Yes. So from police to police, and police being the lead agency establishing command and control, will pass on the information to other supporting agencies. So what I want them to do, because we know that radio communication is not sufficient to go around. So using the map, the security threat assessment they must have done, identifying the flash point area, they should make sure that they have adequate communication so that they can actually activate the patrol vans that are going around. Because without being called upon, they won't know where the problem is in each of these units because they can't drive around. So that's one. But then the other one is also the INEC itself, because if the security agencies have played their own role, INEC, is it adequately prepared? By this, will materials be at the polling unit when they are supposed to be, where they are supposed to be by 8 a.m. to enable elections to commence? Because it's actually when they don't get there on time that people start feeding into conspiracy theory.
And police has a role to play there too. Police
has a role. That's the motorized one that would convey the materials to the polling unit. So INEC has to play its own role. So, but even when all these critical stakeholders have played their own role, we also have to ask ourselves, what is it about these particular states, Rivers, Akwa Ibom, and other oil-producing states, that produces disproportionate violence when you are looking at, when you are assessing election security in election? And it comes down to what is at stake. The patronage system, a lot of money is there, even when elections are not holding. These are what they call lucrative posting. Everybody wants to get there, and through that process, all kinds of things happen. So, in addition to what the security agencies are doing, I would also expect that after these elections, we need to sit down and fashion out a way of organizing credible election in these oil-producing states in difficult-to-reach terrain, because this is 20 years after 6 cycles of elections, and we're still talking about rudimentary preparations that should enable things to go smoothly.
With respect to security for the elections, are you concerned about the response time, even though we understand in River State, for instance, that at the perimeters, the police will be there, and those ones will be armed, because they are the ones that will ensure that if anything is happening in the center, if thugs are having access to the polling units, then it becomes a source of concern, as it did play out during the presidential elections. How quickly do you think that the police can respond in this kind of scenario?
The response time is a function of a number of factors. One is adequate personnel to send to respond. Another is transportation to convey them. And not forgetting that they have to be called upon, they have to be activated, which is a function of communication. And this plows back to the institutional challenges all these agencies are facing leading to the election. So that makes it difficult. I mean, in everyday crime experiences, ordinary citizens have. How responsive? What is the response time? In other parts of the world, they can tell you within 5 minutes you will get response. But in Nigeria, it stresses to hours because of these institutional challenges that have not been addressed, and they can't be solved overnight.
There's something Mr. Mba mentioned the other time, and this was an issue that was sidestepped largely in the build-up to the presidential election, which was the command control, the chain of command, who takes charge at each of the polling units. He has made it clear now, but then the concern one would have, especially in the flashpoint states, you know, like River State and all of that, would be, would these other agencies, I don't know what kind of communication you think they may have had to be able to say, you know, don't worry, all of them will report to the polling unit and will recognize the police as the lead agency?
Yes, sir, I heard him clearly, but the question mark I have is whether the military would subscribe to the command and control of the police, given that they are not right there in the immediate vicinity of the voting area. They man the high roads and high streets that there. So historically, you have had that challenge about the military subserving themselves to the leadership of the police in civil interventions like this. I don't know whether they have addressed it. The interagency consultative
especially since the military themselves, you know, keep talking to the...
They also have their own situation room. By the way, we know in the build-up to these elections that they set up their own situation room.
Okay, well, you made reference to this oil-producing states, what's at stake, but this is not one of those oil-producing states, but it's also one of those states that we consider as some of the states to watch. We've got our correspondent, Larry Lasisi, in Kwara this time. He's got some of the key persons to take a look at what's going on there. Larry.
Well, Chief Leader, we are in Ilorin, the capital of Kwara State, and also known as the City of Harmony. And we've been trying to get an understanding of what has happened thus far as regards the elections for tomorrow. Just before we kick off, I'd just like to say we understand that 35 candidates will be contesting for governorship. We have like 338 candidates that will be contesting for the 24 seats in the State House of Assembly, and there are 19 parties, you know, vying for that. So it's going to be one to look forward to as the elections kick off tomorrow. But we're trying to get an understanding of what the arrangement has been. And I have here with me the resident electoral commissioner for Kwara State. Good afternoon.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much. Now, can you give us an update? What's arrangements like for tomorrow?
We are ready. After the 23rd of July March election, we had to sit down with my electoral officers at the local government to review the 23rd March election, and 23rd February. And we have to kind of do an assessment of what we did right and what we did wrong. Even though election was very, very good for Kwara, we scored excellent. After that, we held a meeting with the security agencies, the ISS meeting. And then today, Friday, we're going to retrain our ad hoc staff, especially in the use of card reader, how to fold the ballot paper and things like that.
What about the materials?
Oh, we didn't have problem with materials. In Kwara, we are lucky. All the materials required for this election is ready. And we distributed that on Wednesday at the CBN. And the materials right now are the local government. As I'm speaking to you today, the materials are going to move to the rack centers under heavy security of 10 armed men per racks. Yes.
So against tomorrow morning, one issue we always look out for is early deployment of the ad hoc staff. What's the arrangement for that?
What I have done in that respect is during the meeting we had with the EOs, I told them that they have to leave their rack centers as early as 5. And in the area of logistics, I approve more money for them so that I can hire more vehicles, so that they don't give me an excuse. And I can guarantee you that they will be there by 7:30 before 8. An election in Kwara will be conducted better than what we did during the 23rd February.
All right, there you have it, the resident electoral commissioner saying what they did before was good and they're going to make it better all the arrangement, he said, is on ground and has been put in place. Now, I have also with me the Commissioner of Police for the state to give us like an overview of what the security arrangement is like. Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon.
Yes. Please, can you start by helping us with what the arrangement, how has it been thus far?
Yeah, last election, we conducted a very peaceful exercise here in Kwara State. We have used the period between then and now to improve on our security arrangement. We are going to have a better deployment this time around. We are not taking the success of the last election for granted, and what you are going to see in this election is going to be better than what you saw in the last election.
Okay, now one area of concern has always been the issue of collation. Well, what is in place to ensure that, yes, if the voting gets done peacefully, the results getting back, and some of those things we hear in the question sector, that will be forestalled here in Kwara State?
Yeah, in the last election, we didn't have issue with collation here. Okay. Our deployment was just adequate to guarantee the success of the whole exercise. So we are going to repeat the same thing this time around, and we are going to do it better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, you have it there. We've done it well. We're going to do it better. From the security, from the Resident Electoral Commission. And that appears to be that's the arrangement we have on ground now. We're still going to be speaking with some other people later in the day, the observers and other groups that have a stake in these elections, to understand if that feeling is going around the town. I can tell you that today the state declared a public holiday to allow people move around and also make adequate preparations for the elections. So we're looking forward to tomorrow, even while still following up everything happening today before those elections. Chamberlain.
Well, yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Larry Elasticity, our correspondent in Kwara State. Well, gentlemen, if I were in that sun, I could call morning, afternoon sometimes. So it happens. Sometimes you can't blame him. But
what is interesting?
Did you see over 35
candidates for the governorship seat?
But this is not all producing state.
Yeah. Well, it is a state.
And you can also relate with the antecedents of that state, considering that the Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, is from Kwara State, and the contestations at different levels on contesting for the governorship. So it's not surprising that this is the result of what we're seeing. It's politics, and politics, right from the times of the father of the Senate President, has always been hot for Kwara State. So I mean, this is not surprising, really.
Well, let's get to Abuja. Idayat Hassan is of the Center for Democracy and Development. Very interesting developments there in Kwara. It's intense. 35 candidates for one position. In terms of how they will play out in state, what are you looking forward to?
The Kwara election will be a pointer to what dynastic politics really is in Nigeria. As earlier said, the Saraki's family has ruled since 1979, but now you have 35 candidates. One of the largest, actually, Imo has 69 candidates in the elections. They are fielding the highest in all the 29 states. And it tells you something. There are two candidates, and it is either one person wins. It's only one person that can win, but it actually goes beyond who wins. So it's one of the flashpoints to look for tomorrow. It's one of those places where it cannot be acquired. It's not Akwa Ibom, it's not Rivers, that a lot will actually be said. But what is very important will have to be the adequacy of deployment. And by adequacy of deployment is not just the security deployment, which most times there are not enough personnel in the polling unit, around the polling unit, aside from rapid response. In most instances, you just find one person from the immigration or from the customs service there in the police, in the polling unit, and in other places you might find 3 police. So how do we make it across board? Because what is important for us to note is that we are dealing with a sophisticated elite who are out there, a political class who takes politics as do or die. So the fault most times is not just on the part of the security agencies, but the sophistication of the warfare that is actually being waged. So if we say tomorrow we are going to see the police, Mr. Umba and the Nigerian police are going to deploy as much as possible in Kwara or in other parts, what the political class are obviously planning, because a lot is actually at stake.
Well, we'll find out from Frank in a moment if the police will be on top of this one, as they always tell us. But we'll go to break and come back in a moment for that. Stay with us.